Welcome to Life Ablaze. So today my guides have indicated that the topic is going to be self-determinism. So let's see what they have to say. We are here. We welcome you. We are indeed here to discuss the idea today of self-determinism. Now, we of course are speaking of this topic in terms of our general theme of coming into greater alignments with your higher self, your higher mind. We are in the second half of this series of 30 days of channeling. And so we will begin to see many of the concepts that we have heretofore mentioned coming together and being played with together. And so, today's topic of self-determinism will begin to explore some of the ideas that we have presented up until this point, but from a perspective of allowing yourselves to be the ultimate authority in your own lives. Now, many of you believe yourselves to be this self-determined person, to be the person who is essentially guiding your own life. And to some extent, that is true. However, what we are here to point out today is that many of the ideas that you believe to be from yourself, believe to be ideas that you have consciously selected to be the guiding principles of your lives, are anything but self-chosen. They are, in many senses, quite unconscious for you. They have become this way, to the degree that they are, in many cases, running in the background on autopilot. And so, in the topic that we are discussing today, we are wanting for each of you to begin to, of course, address some of these ideas and to begin to bring them into your own conscious awareness, as we have previously discussed, and to begin selecting the ones that you have determined today are serving you. Many of these ideas, no doubt, have served you up until this point. There have been many phases of your lives wherein certain beliefs, certain ideas, even certain social structures have served you for the experience of those particular phases of your life. But many of you learned these ideas at, shall we say, an earlier phase, and have continued to make use of them, continued to allow these principles to guide you in your lives far beyond the phase at which they were appropriate. And so that is why we are wanting to explore these ideas in more depth and to begin to evaluate them from the vantage point that you are in now. And so, the idea of self-determinism is, in this particular facet, a recognition that you have, in a sense, graduated from many of the beliefs that you have espoused up until this point. And many of you, shall we say, want to relax, want to not concern yourselves with such things. But of course, we are here to guide you into a greater alignment with your higher self. And so, assuming that you are watching these videos wanting the same thing, then this requires for you to begin to investigate the belief systems that have been in place in your lives up until this point, to begin to consciously reevaluate them. And in reevaluating them, you will find that many of them simply no longer apply. Or they apply if you are choosing to resonate with a former identity. What do we mean by this? One simple and easy example would be that most of you grew up in a family environment wherein you were the child, and your parents would guide you towards doing this thing or that thing and spoon-feed you certain beliefs. Many of these, of course, were for your own protection, for your own development. But many of those were only relevant for you while you were a child. And you do not simply let all of those belief structures go when you reach a certain age. There is not a demarcation point where these beliefs are automatically dropped from you. You must choose to let go of them. As I'm sure many of you are aware, perhaps even within your own relationships with your parents, at whatever adult age you may be, that many of the dynamics that you have with them are still along the lines as if you were a child, when clearly you are not. We understand that there can be much momentum around these specific dynamics, these belief systems, these structures of relating to these particular relationships. And we understand that it can often be challenging for both parties to begin to readjust these dynamics. But this is, whether all parties wish to acknowledge this or not, this is part of the experience of being who you are. You must, to some degree, move beyond your parents and any and all previous situations. Your parents, of course, being just the simple example that everyone can relate to for the most part. But they are by no means the end of that particular idea. Any experience wherein you were, for instance, choosing limitations, and now, for instance, you begin to understand that you are not limited in this way. This is an opportunity for you to begin to let go of that old paradigm and to begin to determine for yourself a new path, a new paradigm of reality for you. Now, that is the first area that we wish to discuss along this terminology of self-determination. The next area is something a bit more, shall we say, esoteric. But it is no less important. It is no less crucial for your expansion as far as your alignment with your higher self. And that is to allow the authority within you to be the determining factor for what you choose in your lives. Now, this is very easy to understand intellectually, but this does not mean that this intellectual understanding is immediately nor accurately translating into action in your lives. Or many of you would have no need to be listening to these messages. There is, for instance, the idea that were you to try something new, you would research this idea. Perhaps you would do extensive online research for this item that you supposedly know nothing about. Now, we would acknowledge that perhaps your physical mind may not know about this particular area. And, again, if you are operating from a third-dimensional, physical mind perspective, as if your mind is what is guiding you around, then we can understand why you would want to do this extensive research. However, you have access through your own higher mind, through the wisdom of your heart, to information that is not only more comprehensive than what you may find in your research online, but it is also more keyed to you specifically, and it is much more free of the bias of other individuals' vibration. So you see, if you were to begin to research online a particular topic, many of you would consider this to be a very prudent practice. But it is not being considered when you are doing this, for the most part, the vibrations of the individuals who were sharing that particular information. This is a contextual bit of information, a multi-dimensional context that is not separate from the information. But many of you may be proceeding as if it is separate, as if their vibrational context is of no relevance, of no consequence, but it is. And so, the research that you may do may open you up to a variety of different vibrations, many of which may be incongruent with where you are going, with what is relevant for you to experience, and may be incongruent with the connection between you and your higher mind. You may be going in a different direction on a particular topic, for instance, than what others may have experienced or shared. And so, with the idea of self-determinism, what we are offering to you today is a new context to begin to do your research, wherein the research that you do is through the connection between you and your higher mind. You can begin to explore how you feel about a particular topic. You can begin with your own vibrational resonance. And so, if you were to begin to do a search, for instance, even a search online, before you begin this practice, the idea we are discussing is to tune in to your own inner wisdom, tune in to your own guides, to your higher mind, and let them, ask them to guide you to the information that you are looking for easily, effortlessly, and ask with appreciation. And so, if you start in this way, in earnest, and tune to this idea with peacefulness, with appreciation, with loving surrender to your inner wisdom, then the experience that you will have will be a completely different one, even if it involves, for instance, an online search of information. You will be given this information very quickly, effortlessly, in many cases. It will be as if the information that you needed was delivered immediately to you, with very little effort, very little time spent searching. And when this happens, your role in this situation, when you know you have received the information, is to offer appreciation for it and take the information and put it into action. Not to take this information, set it aside, and continue searching. This is the action of someone who doubts the inner wisdom, someone who is doubting the intuitive delivery of synchronistic information. And this is not what we are after. We are looking to close the gap, not widen the gap. This goes back to what we were referring to earlier about trust and developing that trust with your higher mind. Trust that when you get the information that you need in that moment, that it has been delivered. And take action on that. And if, when you take action, it leads you to a new understanding, then you have been given this gift again. And you can move forward on that. But do not do yourself and your connection to your higher mind the disservice of discounting, shall we say, the perfect search results because the search was too easy. This is part of the belief system that is running against you, so to speak. And so, along these lines, getting back to our main topic of self-determinism, what we are suggesting is that though there may be authorities out there on any given topic, this does not mean that they are an authority about your experience with this topic. In fact, they have no authority on your experience with this topic. They only know their own experience, and they may speak as if this is objective fact for all, but they would be mistaken. And were you to adopt the words that they have, the suggestions that they offer, as if their experience will be your experience, you are very likely to run afoul. And so, were you to take what they offer with, shall we say, a grain of salt, and to understand that your mileage may vary, then you can become the captain of your own ship in a much more profound way, letting your own intuition determine for yourself where you will go, what you will take action upon, and what is relevant for you. We thank you again for this opportunity to speak with you in this way, and we look forward to speaking with you again. Until next time. Thank you so much. See you next time.